Hey, this is MiniDan97. This is my first YouTube video, and I was in a bit of a dilemma whether to start it at the start of the Premier League season or right now at the start of the F1 season. I've decided to start it now simply because I'm an F1 nut, and because it's closer, so I can get more videos on YouTube now. More or less, this video is just going to be about the pre-season of the drivers, the testing, and the obviously brand new cars. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So first, Red Bull. The team's based in Milton Keynes, with the team principal of Christian Horner, and as of 2013, their main title sponsor would be Infinity, so therefore changing their name to Infinity Red Bull Racing. A little bit of history. In 1995, Red Bull sponsored Sauber, which is still going now. But then in 1999 is when they became the big thing. Jackie Stewart sold his F1 team to Ford, and Ford renamed it Jaguar Racing. This is where it mainly goes back to, which then in 2004, Ford sold Jaguar Racing to Red Bull on the last day. And Red Bull obviously named it after themselves. They employed the drivers David Coulthard and Christian Klein. In 2005, they bought Minardi and renamed them Scuderia Toro Rosso, which is Italian for Racing Red Bull. And then in 2007, they employed Mark Webber as one of their drivers. 2 years later, in 2009, they signed Sebastian Vettel, and that is the team we know today. And then the following year, in 2010, the Drivers' Championship went for Vettel, along with the championship for Red Bull. And in the preceding 2 years, 2011 2012, the same thing happened again, making Vettel the youngest driver to win 3 consecutive championships, surpassing the great Ayrton Senna. And then for 2013, they are both keeping the same drivers. And then we come to the brand new car, the Red Bull RB9. In my opinion, it's quite a nice car. It looks slightly thinner and a bit longer than the previous RB8. I quite like the nose on it, to be honest. The nose is not like some of the other cars that I'll show you later, who have cut down their nose. It's now quite stumpy. The car is rather short, as it were. But I found Red Bull has done exactly the opposite, and if anything, extended their car, making it look quite slim and very nice. But of course, not forgetting Mark Webber. Born on the 27th of August 1976, it makes him probably one of the oldest drivers this season. He was born in Australia, and if you watch his interviews, you can very clearly tell. In his earlier career, he drove for Minardi in 2002, and then Jaguar 2003-2004. Then proceeded to drive for Williams 2005-2006, and has been with Red Bull ever since 2007. And Red Bull are still keeping it on. However, unlike Vettel, where Vettel has a multi-year contract ending in 2014, Webber only signs for 1 year. He grabbed his first win at the 2009 German Grand Prix. And his last win was at the 2012 British Grand Prix. Unfortunately, knocking Hamilton and Webber off. But apart from the F1 side, Mark Webber is also a very big charitable man. In 2003, he organised a 10-day trek across Tasmania to attempt to raise funds for the children's cancer research charities. And for the past few years, after 2003, this didn't really happen. However, in 2010, it was announced the challenge would return in 2011. And the challenge is proceeded to carry on through 2012, 2013. But of course, we can't forget the main part of the Red Bull team, the two drivers. First of all, I'll start with Sebastian Vettel. Born on the 3rd of July in 1987 in Heppenheim in Germany. He is the current Drivers' Championship, or the Drivers' Champion. In his early career, he drove for BMW Sauber, and then Toro Rosso, and then, as I mentioned before, drove for Red Bull in 2009 and stayed with them, and is currently staying with them. Also, among the 3 Drivers' Championships he holds, he can also boast that he has the second fastest lap time on the Formula 1 leaderboard of Top Gear, just behind Lewis Hamilton, which was only set a couple of weeks ago. Also, he has quite a unique helmet design, because in the old days, the Red Bull team, their helmet design used to be very heavily influenced by Red Bull. However, Vettel's drawn away from this, and even though he still has the Red Bull logo on it, he also has the coat of arms in honour of the region of his birthplace, Heppenheim. However, Vettel's helmet designs do change. They change actually very often. What Vettel does, the helmet manufacturer Ari said that Vettel retires his helmet design after each win, meaning that he has a new helmet design for each race, although he doesn't sometimes change it. However, for the 2012 Italian Grand Prix, Vettel celebrated his 50th helmet design with a rusty matte look and 50 tallies. And next we have Scuderia Ferrari. Named after its founder Enzo Ferrari, the Scuderia is Italian for a stable reserved for racing horses, and is also commonly applied to Italian motor racing teams. The current team is made up of Stefano Domenicali as team principal, and obviously the two of the best drivers of Felipe Massa and Fernando Alonso. The team is based in Maranello, where it has been since 1943. Furthermore, statistically, Ferrari is the most successful Formula 1 team in history, with a record of 15 driver championships, and as a constructor, 16 constructor championships, with some of those driver championships including the champions of Michael Schumacher, Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen. On top of this, Ferrari is said to be the oldest surviving team in Grand Prix racing, having competed since 1932. And now we have the brand new car, the F138. In my personal opinion, it's quite a nice car. It looks a different colour of red from last year, a bit lighter red. But as I was mentioned before, how some of the cars have shortened and their noses have shortened. When you look at this Ferrari, it does look like they've shortened the nose and they've made it less pointy and a bit more stumpy. And also, if you look at it, the nose is now slightly higher than the old type of car. Again, when you look at this car, the nose of it, from last year where it was quite a punty, sharp nose, it's kind of more rounded now. So overall, even though it is quite a nice car, it personally isn't one of my favourites this year. And then we have the Ferrari drivers, starting with Felipe Massa. Born on the 25th of April 1981 in Sao Paulo, Brazil, makes him, again, one of the oldest drivers in Formula 1 at the age of 31. Massa started out his Formula 1 career at Sauber, staying with them at 2002, then becoming a Ferrari test driver in 2003, before going back to Sauber 2004-2005. As of 2006, Massa joined Ferrari, and this is where he gained his first win in the 2006 Turkish Grand Prix. Ever since 2006, Massa has always been with Ferrari. However, in the past couple of years, just not so successful. His last win was on the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix. And as we probably most remember, in 2009 he suffered a severe injury, which hospitalised him after a suspension spring off Rubens Barrichello's car while he was driving for Braun GP came and hit Massa directly in his head. At the present time, Massa's contract will run out at the end of this season with Ferrari. And then we come to poor Fernando Alonso. Born on the 29th of July 1981, this Spanish driver, the same age as his Brazilian counterpart, first started driving for Minardi in 2001. At 2003, he changed over to Renault and stayed with them in 2006. In 2005, whilst with Renault, he won the World Drivers' Championship at the age of 24 years and 58 days, making him the youngest Formula 1 driver to win it. After he retained this in the following year of 2006, he became the youngest double championship of all time. In 2007, he joined McLaren to partner Lewis Hamilton, before returning to Renault in 2008 to 2009, and then in 2010 joining Ferrari to partner Felipe Massa, who he is still partnering today. However, I find he has a very big rivalry with Sebastian Vettel. In 2003, Alonso became the youngest driver to win a pole position and Grand Prix. However, this was broken in years to come by Sebastian Vettel in 2008. Also, when he won the double youngest champion in 05 and 06, that has again been broken by Sebastian Vettel. And then last year, in 2012, Vettel beat him in the Drivers' Championship by just 3 points. And now we move on to McLaren Mercedes. Based in Woking in Surrey, with the team principal of Martin Whitmarsh, they are the second oldest active team after Ferrari, as I mentioned before, and also one of the most successful, having won 182 races, 12 Drivers' Championships and 8 Constructors' Championships. The team was founded in 1963 by the New Zealander Bruce McLaren, and 5 years later, at the 1968 Belgian Grand Prix, the team went on to win its first Grand Prix. However, in 1970, Bruce McLaren died in a tragic testing accident, and Teddy Meyer took over as the team principal. 4 years later, they went on to win their first Formula 1 Constructors' Championship, with the drivers of Emerson Fittipaldi and James Hunt. 1974 also marked the start of a long-standing sponsorship by Marlboro cigarette brand. In 1981, McLaren merged with Ron Dennis's Project 4 Racing, with Dennis taking over as team principal. And shortly afterwards, he organised a buyout of the original McLaren shareholders to take full control of all the team. And this began the most successful era for the team, with Porsche and Honda engines. Niki Lauda, Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna took between them 7 Drivers' Championships and 6 Constructors' Championships. The partnership of Prost and Senna was particularly strong and dominant, winning all but one race in 1988, but later their rivalry soured and Prost left for Ferrari. In the mid-1990s, the team started to go downhill with 3 seasons without a win. However, made a comeback in 1998 and 1999 with Mika Hakkinen. The team's most latest title was held by Lewis Hamilton in 2008. And in 2009, Dennis retired as team principal of McLaren, handing the former role to Martin Whitmarsh. And then we come to the car. Absolutely beautiful car, I think. However, again, I think they've gone the same way as Ferrari, by shortening their nose again. You can see that they haven't really changed much of the back end of the car, it's mainly the nose. By raising it up quite a bit, and again, just making it that tiny bit shorter, not by very much such as Ferrari, just a tiny bit. You can also see that I find I think with most of the F1 cars this year, that they've made the car significantly slimmer in the way that it used to be last year. So they have made it slightly shorter of a nose cone, not as much as Ferrari, but they have quite, I find, dramatically slimmed the car. With not just the nose cone of the car, but the actual whole body of the car. But overall, this has to be personally one of my favourite cars, I find. And now we come to personally one of my favourite drivers, Jenson Button. Born on the 19th of January 1980, it makes him again one of the most oldest drivers in Formula 1 at the age of 33. He started in the year 2000 driving for Williams and Benetton in 2001. He then moved to Renault in 2002 and then to Bar between 2003 and 2005. After that, he moved to Honda in 2006 to 2008, where he won his first race at the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix. In 2009, he then moved to Brawn GP, where some people would arguably say he had his best season by winning the World Champion. In 2010, he then moved to McLaren to partner the other British driver of Lewis Hamilton up to 2012. His last win was at the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix. And even putting aside of the matter that he's one of my favourite drivers, even his driving style has been compared with similarities to the driving style of Alain Prost. And then we come to Sergio Perez. Born on the 26th of January 1990, at the age of 23, he's probably one of the youngest drivers, and his nickname in the actual F1 world is the Mexican Wonder Kid because of his such young age. Because he hasn't had much of a F1 career, I can't really say much about him, other than for 2011 and 2012, he drove for Sauber, and then obviously this season, he's changed over to McLaren to fill the empty space in, left by Lewis Hamilton. In the past 2 seasons, he has raced 39 races, finishing with a podium finish in 3 of those races, and racking up 80 career points in the past 2 seasons. Last season, he finished 10th with 66 points in the leaderboard. And personally, the partnership between him and Button, I think, is going to be a real good worker partnership. Because I find Button has the team spirit for the team to win, yet Perez has the aim to win, and because he is such a young driver, he has so much potential, I find. And now we move on to the Lotus F1 team. The Lotus F1 team has only been around for the past year, making their debut in the 2012 Australian Grand Prix. The origins of the actual team started in 1981 as the Tolman Motorsports team, based in Witney, Oxfordshire. And then in 1986, the team was renamed Benton Formula following its purchase in 1985 by the Benton family. In 1992/93, the team moved to a new base in Enstone. And then in 1994 and 95, Michael Schumacher, who actually drove for them, won the Drivers' Championship. In 1995, the team also won the Constructors' Championship, with Johnny Herbert driving alongside Schumacher. In the year 2000, Renault purchased the team, and in 2002 they renamed it Renault F1. Again, in 2005 and 2006, Fernando Alonso won the Drivers' Championship with the team, and also the Constructors' Championship. And the team shows off this achievement by placing 3 gold stars at the beginning of the cockpit on the Lotus E20. At the end of 2009, Renault sold the majority of the team to a company called Genii. And then in 2011, Lotus cars became involved with the team, and it was renamed first to Lotus Renault GP, and for the 2012 season to Lotus F1 team. However, this is where I find the team gets really confusing with their name. In 2010, Tony Fernandez was the team principal of Team Lotus Racing, which used the name under the license of Group Lotus. However, Group Lotus later terminated this license, but Fernandez acquired the privately owned Team Lotus name and used it into the 2011 season. For 2012, he changed the name to Caterham F1 team, clearing the way for the Lotus Renault team to be renamed Lotus. The current team at the moment comprises of the team principal of Eric Boullier and the two drivers of Kimi Raikkonen and Romain Grosjean, and is still based in Enstone, Oxfordshire today. And in 2012, the team did a very good finish of 4th with 303 points. And then we come to their car, the Lotus E21. Personally, I love this car to bits. A bit of a new paint job on the car and a bit of a rearranging of the sponsors on the car. But again, it's the nose cone. Like some of the other teams where they've made it quite a bit shorter, this team has gone exactly the opposite way, made the nose cone so much longer, and it just makes the car look so much better, so much slimmer and so much longer. And I find just makes it just an absolute beautiful car. You can also see on the rear of the car that they've made the gradient of the back of the car quite less steeper, so it is very smooth. Personally, I find this has to be one of my most favourite cars of the 2013 period, and I find this will probably be in my top 3 favourite cars of this season. Let's just see if this car can perform. And now we come to Kimi the Iceman Raikkonen. Born on the 17th of October 1979, at the age of 33 it again makes him one of the oldest drivers. In 2009, Kimi Raikkonen was listed as the equal second highest paid athlete in the world, just behind Tiger Woods. Kimi started his F1 career in 2001 at Sauber, and then the next year moved to McLaren between 2002 and 2006. This is where he gained his first race win at the 2003 Malaysian Grand Prix. In 2007 to 2009, Kimi moved to Ferrari, which is where he won his first championship in 2007. In 2009, Raikkonen retired from Formula 1 and for the next 3 years competed in rallying and NASCAR races. However, in 2012 made his comeback with Lotus. Also, Kimi's helmet is also quite unique, in the fact his helmet has not really changed from team to team. His helmet usually consists of a trident insignia, along with on the circle top a V to represent a flying bird with the inscription Iceman. Personally, Kimi Raikkonen is one of my most favourite drivers, not because of his driving style or what he's raced, but simply because he is absolutely hilarious as a racing driver. In most of his interviews, he is always blunt, and even memorably last year, he was very blunt and sarcastic with his team engineers. One noticeable incident is on the build-up of the 2006 Brazilian Grand Prix. Martin Brundle asked Raikkonen why he didn't bother to watch a ceremony with the legendary footballer Pelé presented Michael Schumacher with a Lifetime Achievement Award. And Kimi's simple reply on live TV was, "I was having a dump," to put it as a lesser word. And next we come to Romain Grosjean. Born on the 17th of April 1986, at the age of 26, it makes him one of the younger drivers in F1. He started his F1 career in 2009 driving for Renault, but then in the same year retired. Last season in 2012 saw his comeback for driving for Lotus, and last year saw him gain 3 podiums and a total career points of 96. Now, even though he's young and does show potential, I find his driving style to be seriously too aggressive. You may remember last year the amount of high-speed incidents he was involved in, and even his one race ban after an accident he caused. I find his racing style to be very aggressive, and he is really one driver that we need to look out for. And now we come to Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. Probably the team in F1 with the longest name. Based in Brackley in Northamptonshire, and it's racing under a German licence. The Mercedes team first came around in the 1930s, named Mercedes-Benz Racing and Grand Prix. However, this was heavily funded by the Nazi regime, and along with rivals Auto Union, won every European Grand Prix championship after 1932. However, in 1954, Mercedes-Benz returned to what was now known as Formula 1. They won on both their return year in 1954 and the next year in 1955, however withdrew in that year due to the 1955 24-hour Le Mans disaster. However, Mercedes yet again returned in 2010, being named first Mercedes GP and then Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team. This was after they bought and took over Brawn GP. In 2010 they hired the drivers of Nico Rosberg and Michael Schumacher, and with Schumacher obviously retiring last season, this is the team we have now, with Nico Rosberg, the new driver of Lewis Hamilton, and the team principal of Ross Brawn. And now for the Mercedes W04, brand new Mercedes car. It's a nice car, I think. They've kept the design nice and simple, haven't really changed much anything from last year, apart from the paint design. I find bit of a darker colour, quite nice. And also a bit of a shift around of the sponsors on the car, with obviously a brand new sponsor with BlackBerry. And unlike the other teams where they've changed the nose quite drastically, I find that Mercedes hasn't really done that. All they've really done, I find, is that they've curved the front of the nose off. And also maybe a slight tweak with the wings, just to make them a slightly shallower. But apart from that, it's a nice car. They kept it nice and simple. And now we come to Nico Rosberg. Born on the 27th of June 1985, at the age of 27, he isn't as old as some of the drivers, but he isn't a spring chicken either. He first started racing in 2006 for Williams, and raced for them for 4 seasons, until he broke up with them in 2009, and joined Mercedes. With Mercedes, he's probably had his most arguably best career, with the 1 win last year at the Chinese Grand Prix, and overall in his career, 7 podiums and 399.5 career points. He's been with Mercedes since 2010, and he's staying on with them in 2013. And now we come to Lewis Hamilton, MBE. Born on the 7th of January 1985, at the age of 28, he's the same as Rosberg, not one of the older drivers, but again not one of the younger ones. He first started his F1 career with McLaren in 2007, and stayed up with them until last year. Whilst at McLaren, going through a number of partners, but also gaining his first win in 2007, his first year at the Canadian Grand Prix, and his first championship in 2008, narrowly missing out the 2007 championship by just 1 point. In his 6 years driving, he's racked up a total of 913 career points, 49 podiums, 21 of which have been wins, all at McLaren. However, for the 2013 season, he's decided to change over to Mercedes for more of a challenge. His helmet design is also a very nice one. His helmet was very much like Ayrton Senna's, and because Senna was his hero, it was assumed that his helmet was yellow in honour of him, whereas in fact it was yellow so his father could tell him who his son was in his karting days. However, Hamilton's helmet was very much like Senna's, and in 2011 for the Brazilian Grand Prix, Hamilton wore a special helmet that was a fusion of his post-2011 helmet and that of Ayrton Senna's. And this, after the race, was auctioned in aid of the Ayrton Senna Foundation. Also, Hamilton being one of my favourite drivers, One thing that I don't particularly like about Hamilton is his driving style. He has a very aggressive driving style, quite like Grosjean. Although Hamilton's driving style is aggressive, I don't find it particularly dangerous. His driving style is very unique. He is always on the throttle, behind a car, trying to overtake them. He is very aggressive, but it usually always works. In 2010, in 4 races, he made 32 overtakes, which I just simply find amazing. How he displays so much confidence when he's behind that car. That maybe the aggression is a bad thing, but at the same time, it makes him one of the best drivers. And really, I say that's one thing that I don't like about him, but it's probably one thing that draws me to him to be one of my favourites, because he is just absolutely a fantastic driver with his driving style. And now we move on to Sauber. The Sauber F1 team was founded in the 1970s by Peter Sauber. Peter Sauber began to build sports cars in the 1970s with Mercedes engines, and had won a number of the Le Mans races. In 1993 and 1994 in F1, Sauber stayed with Mercedes engines, and although the planned Mercedes collaboration between Mercedes and Sauber was shelved, behind closed doors, Mercedes continued to fund Sauber's Formula 1 project. This was with the C12 chassis. The C was a reference to Peter Sauber's wife, Christine. In 1995 and 1996, they changed over to Ford engines. And also in 1995, Sauber began a 10-year sponsorship with Red Bull and a sponsorship with Petronas. Red Bull, obviously, now we know as Red Bull Racing, and Petronas, obviously, sponsoring Mercedes. In 1997, both Sauber still with both of those sponsorships, they went over to the Ferrari engines, up until 2005. However, in those years, without any results, the team was sold to BMW for 3 years between 2006 and 2009, until it was sold back to Peter Sauber at the end of the 2009 season, and the name was changed again in 2010 for the start of the 2011 season back to Sauber F1 team, and to run under Ferrari engines again. In 2013, they are staying with their C chassis for the C32 and have Nico Hülkenberg and the new driver of Esteban Gutierrez as their team. And now for the new car, the Sauber C32, staying with the tradition of naming the chassis of the C whatever number. They haven't really changed much from last year. They've given it a whole new paint colour. They've made it from white to quite dark grey now, which makes the car look quite like it used to back in the old days when it used to race. Also, the nose hasn't changed very much, apart from possibly maybe becoming slightly wider. Slightly shorter, but it doesn't look actually too bad on this car, and come down slightly further than the old nose cone of the C31. All round, it's not a bad car. I think the main thing that's going to make it stand out is definitely the new paint job on it. And now for Esteban Gutierrez. Born on the 5th of August 1991, at the age of 21, he's probably one of the youngest drivers in Formula 1. With Sauber getting rid of both their drivers, or getting rid of Perez and Kamui Kobayashi retiring, they've promoted this new driver up from their training programme, and from their test driver up to their first place team. Obviously, being a brand new driver, there isn't much to say about Esteban. However, in 2012, in the GB2 series, he drove for Lotus and had a very successful season. So we'll just have to watch out for him and see how he does this season, because he does have a lot of potential. And now for Nico Hülkenberg. Born 19th of August 1987, at the age of 25, he's again one of the younger drivers. Between 2005 and 2009, he had a very successful career at Formula 1 BMW, the A1 Grand Prix, Formula 3 and GP2. And then made his debut for Williams in 2010 in Formula 1. However, despite winning the first pole position for Williams in over 5 years, he was not retained for 2011 and joined Force India as their reserve driver and test driver in 2011. In 2012, he was then moved up and promoted to race alongside Paul di Resta, replacing Adrian Sutil. And in 2013, obviously moved to Sauber. In his entire career, he's racked up a total of 85 points, with 1 pole position and 1 fastest lap. And last year, very closely, near enough a win. However, unfortunately, this didn't come true. And now we come to Sahara Force India. The origins of the team go back to the Jordan Grand Prix team, owned by Eddie Jordan. The Jordan Grand Prix team entered in 1991, based at Silverstone, and enjoyed many years, winning 4 races and achieving 3rd place in the 1999 Constructors' title. However, like many of the smaller teams in the 2000s, financial problems meant that the teams had to disband, and Eddie Jordan sold the team to the Midland Group in 2005. The Midland F1 team spent 2 seasons at the back of the grid before the owner sold the team to Spiker Cars midway through the 2006 season. In 2007, they scored 1 single point before again hitting financial issues, and then was sold to Vijay Mallya, the chairman of United Breweries Group, who at the moment is still the team principal. In 2008, the team was then bought for €88 million and was renamed Force India in 2008. The whole team retained the team principal, Chief Technology Officer Mike Gascoigne, and the driver of Adrian Sutil. In 2008, the team first raced and drove with Ferrari engines, and 2009 changed over to Mercedes engines. In 2011, Lotus was dropped, and Paul di Resta made the team to partner Adrian Sutil. And in 2012, Adrian Sutil was then dropped, and Nico Hulkenberg, their reserve driver, was brought up to partner Paul di Resta. And for the 2013 season, Nico Hulkenberg moved to Sauber, and Adrian Sutil is back racing for Force India. And then last season, Force India finished 7th with 109 points. And now the VJM06. Nice car, exactly the same paint job as last year, apart from the rear wing and the side panel. Very nice car. Again, it looks like they've made a slightly longer nose cone and made the car significantly thinner. And also, it looks like the front wings, they've boxed off slightly more and not made it as curved as last year's car. However, all round, it doesn't look like they've changed much on the car. They've kept it quite similar to last year, apart from, obviously, changing the shape slightly. And I do like Force India as a team, so I do hope this car this year can bring them more success. And now Adrian Sutil. Born on the 11th of January 1983, at the age of 30, he's one of the more experienced drivers. He started his F1 career at Midland in 2006, before that was bought by Spiker in 2007. This was then bought by Force India in 2008, and he stayed with them till 2011. This was until 2012, when he was dropped from the team for Nico Hulkenberg. However, now that he's left for Sauber, he is back in the seat for the 2013 season. Although never gaining a win between 2007 and 2011, because in 2006 for Midland he was only a testing driver, he has gained 95 career points altogether and 1 fastest lap, with the 2011 ending position for him in 9th with 42 points. And I really do think he will be a good partner to Paul di Resta. And now, as I mentioned, Adrian Sutil's partner, Paul di Resta. But on the 16th of April 1986, at the age of 26, he's one of those mid-drivers again. In 2009, he took part in testing with Force India at Jerez, and in 2010 made his first debut running a practice session in place of Adrian Sutil and placed 11th. In 2011, he then made his debut race for Force India, replacing Liuzzi, and stayed with them in 2012. And has decided to stay with them for the 2013 season. Now, Paul di Resta is one of my favourite drivers. He is a young driver and he's got great potential, I find. However, last season, in my opinion, he had quite an inconsistent season, gaining in some races quite a few points, finishing up in 4th, and then gaining absolutely no points at all and finishing in 19th. However, I do have great hope for Paul di Resta. He is an absolute brilliant driver and he has great potential, I find. As in 2 years, he's racked up 73 points, and unfortunately last year he finished 14th with 46 points, but I think he is going to do absolutely brilliant this year. And now to Williams' F1 team. The team was formed in 1977 by Sir Frank Williams, who's still team principal today. Over the years, Williams has been a very, very successful team, with drivers such as Nigel Mansell, Damon Hill, Alan Prost, Jenson Button, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna, and many more. And also, they hold 9 Constructors' Championships, I won't mention them all, and 7 Drivers' Championships, both between 1980 and 1997. However, with all these drivers and Constructors' Championships they have won, their main changing point is their engines. Between 1976 and 83, they were with Ford, then moved to Honda till 87, and then for 88, they stayed with Judd. Between 1989 and 1999, for 10 years, they went with Renault and Mecachrome, and then with BMW between 2000 and 2005. In 2006, they then had Cosworth engines. Between 2007 and 2009, they had Toyota engines. They went back to Cosworth for the 2010 and 2011 seasons, and then returned to Renault for the 2012 season, and have stayed with them this year. Altogether, in their many years of racing, they have completed 592 races, 114 of them have been victories. But unfortunately last year, were only able to finish 8th with 76 points. And now the new FW35. With the body as a whole, they haven't really changed much. Paint colour's the same, body style's the same, everything is near enough the same as last year. However, the one thing that I don't like about this car is its front nose. I've talked about the other cars cutting their noses down. This has done exactly that, and when you look at it, it's literally taken the nose right the way back, even behind the front wings. And I think this is the team that's taken their nose back the furthest, and I think it just spoils the car for me, really. Some people may disagree, but I don't particularly like it. So let's just see this season how it's going to drive, how it handles, and see if they've made the right decision changing that nose cone. Because whether it will affect the aerodynamics or not is debatable. But for me, in my opinion, it just doesn't make the car look like a normal, good F1 car. And now past the Maldonado. Born 10th of March 1985 at the age of 27. He's again one of these relatively older drivers, but not much experience behind him. He joined Formula 1 in 2011 for Williams, where he only gained the 1 point. However, last season he did significantly better, taking his first win at the Spanish Grand Prix, and finishing 15th after racking up a total of 45 points. But as I said, altogether in his career, he's only had 46 points, meaning that in his first debut season he only got the 1 point. However, I think there's great hope for this driver. and now Valtteri Bottas. Born on the 28th of August 1989 at the age of 23. He's a brand new driver, really young, maybe a bit more potential. In 2010 he was assigned the test driver for Williams and continued this place in 2011-2012 until this season in 2013 he's been promoted to drive alongside Pastor Maldonado. Will his inexperience prove to be a downfall of him, or will it mean he's the brand new Ayrton Senna, a superhero that will have loads of potential and win all the races? Probably not, but we'll soon see. And now for Scuderia Toro Rosso. This is the second of the two teams owned by Red Bull, and the Toro Rosso name actually means Team Red Bull in Italian, where the team is based. The origins of the team go back to Minardi, who raced between 1985 and 2005. But its owner of the time, Paul Stoddart, wanted to sell the team to someone who could take it further than he could and would maintain its traditional base in Italy. And therefore, Red Bull bought the team. However, even though Red Bull have scrapped the Minardi name, they still use the Italian language in the name to show its Italian heritage and roots. Many Minardi fans were upset by this move of the name change, and over 15,000 signed an online petition to keep the Minardi name, but it was unsuccessful, unfortunately. In actual racing terms itself, the team has had their ups and their downs. Not many points finishes, really, in their 6 years and 128 races. However, in 2008, they did gain their first and only race victory in the form of Sebastian Vettel. However, last year's, with the drivers of Daniel Ricciardo and Jean-Eric Vergne, both who Toro Rosso have retained, came 9th with 26 points altogether. And now for this, the STR8. Lovely little car, I think. I find that the car really hasn't changed much, like most of the other cars, apart from becoming a lot slimmer, as usual. And with this car, the nose cone becoming a lot slimmer and coming out quite a bit further. And apart from that, really, nothing much has changed on the car. Let's just hope, fingers crossed, that this team can do as well as their sister counterparts. And now for Daniel Ricciardo. Born on the 1st of July 1989 at the age of 23, he's one of the younger drivers with a bit more experience. In 2011, he started with HRT, and then last year he moved to Toro Rosso. And in his 2 seasons and 31 races, overall he has scored 10 career points, all last year as he finished 18th. And being so young, hopefully he has great potential. And now his partner, Jean-Eric Vergne. Vergne, born 25th of April 1990 at the age of 22, first started in Formula 1 in 2010 and 2011, where he was testing for Toro Rosso and Red Bull. And then in late 2011, he was confirmed that he would drive for Toro Rosso. Last season, Vergne may not have had a brilliantly consistent season, but he was scoring the points. He scored his first points in Australia, and then scored more points in a row of 7 consistent races, before the European Grand Prix, where he retired. After the British Grand Prix, he then continued to score a few more points, not many, but although inconsistent, he did still finish above his more experienced teammate. And I personally think that Vergne has such great potential. And now for the Caterham F1 team. Based in Leafield, Oxfordshire, this team has a bit of a confusing background. The team was formerly known as Lotus Racing, which was racing under the license of Group Lotus. However, Group Lotus terminated this license, and the owner at the time, Tony Fernandez, bought Team Lotus. In the same year, Fernandez also acquired Caterham cars, and in November 2011, the team applied to the Formula 1 Commission to formally change their name for the 2012 season from Lotus to Caterham, meaning that the Renault team could change their name to Lotus. And then they were finally given permission to change their name to Caterham. However, last season, under their new name, with the drivers of Trulli and Kovalainen, they scored no point all season. Even then, with the driver of Vitaly Petrov. And now in 2013, they have hired the Marussia driver Charles Pic and the rookie Gino van der Garde. And now for this, the CT03. When you compare the two cars, apart from the change of the liveries and the sponsors' names, the car really hasn't changed that much. The nose cone hasn't really changed. The only thing that I noticed that's changed really is the back of the car, the tail of the car, where the tail wing is now a different colour. It looks a dark colour, and also the bottom of it doesn't curve off towards the bottom of the car. It's now just quite, it squares off basically. And now for Charles P. Born on the 15th of February 1990. At the age of 23, he started out his Formula 1 career in 2012 with Marussia. He had a very unsuccessful season. Out of the 20 races, didn't get one single point. And then for this year, and this season, he's decided to move over to Caterham. As such a young driver, we hope he has potential, so let's have fingers crossed that he does much better at Caterham this year. And now for his partner, Guido van der Garde. Born on April 25th, 1985, at the age of 27, he's one of the older drivers, but with not much experience. However, in 2006, he joined McLaren's Young Drivers Programme. And between 2006 and 2007, he was Super Agrawai and Spiker's test and reserve drivers. Garde was then a candidate to race for Virgin in 2011, but didn't get the seat. And then this season, he got the seat for Caterham. Being such an age with no experience, we don't know whether he has much potential or not to grow, or whether he's gonna flop or not. And now, last but not least, Marussia F1 team. The origins of Marussia start back in 2010 with Virgin Racing, owned by Richard Branson. However, in 2011, Marussia purchased a controlling stake in the team, and the team became known as Marussia Virgin Racing. And then Marussia, yet again in 2012, bought the whole team and applied to the F1 Commission to formally change their name from Virgin to Marussia to reflect the new ownership. Last year, Marussia had a disappointing season, finishing with no points in 20 races. However, this year, they've got two brand new drivers to accompany the team principal of John Booth. So, let's hope that this will do. And now this is the MR02. Lovely little car, I think. They've completely changed the paintwork on it. And again with the nose, they've made it slightly shorter, but I quite like this nose. They haven't drastically made it shorter. They've still kept it quite long, bit pointy. But they have made it a bit shorter, but I don't mind it, to be honest. And the rear wing, they've made it, I find, a bit more outstanding, a bit more rigid than last year's. The curves in it and things like that are a lot more sharp and serious, whereas last year it was quite smooth. And also the back body of the car, they've made it more smooth, bit of a less steeper gradient, whereas last year's was quite steep. And apart from making the car a bit longer and a bit thinner, they haven't really changed the car that much. It is a nice car though. I like this car quite a lot. I'll start with this man, Luis Razia. Born on April 4th, 1989 at the age of 23. He showed potential being a test driver for Virgin in 2010 and the reserve driver for Lotus in 2011. And then this year he was going to make his competitive debut for Marussia. However, unfortunately, there was issues with his funding and his contract was terminated. So he was replaced by this man, Jules Bianchi. Born on the 3rd of August 1989, age 23, it's the same age as Razia. Between 2009 and 2011, he tested for Ferrari, doing a number of tests, and in 2012, Ferrari loaned him to Force India, where he drove 9 Friday free practice sessions as a reserve driver, until this season, where he replaced Razia, driving for Marussia. At such a young age, hopefully he will have potential. And now for this man, Max Chilton. Born 21st of April 1991, at the age of 21, I think he's the youngest racer in Formula 1 at the moment. He started off in 2011, testing for Force India, and then in the second half of 2012, he was appointed Marussia's testing and reserve driver. And then in December 2012, he was announced that he would be a driver for Marussia. And because of his such young age, I think he has great potential. And I think he's going to be one of my favourite drivers this year, going up with Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button and Paul di Resta. And this is it. Thank you for watching. After this, I will be hoping to put at least one video a week on. Hopefully more. Obviously one for the race, hopefully more for qualifying and practices. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment and subscribe. And I will post information below about things like Twitter and Facebook. Thank you for watching and goodbye. However, before I go, I'm going to leave you with a video from 2009, which I personally think just sums up F1 completely. So again, thank you for watching and goodbye.
In a parallel universe of skill, courage and danger, 12 teams are represented by 24 elite superhumans. We know them as the best of the best. Coupled with the most advanced technology, a supercar, the two of them are almost one. Look closer, you will see the man in the machine. Look again, you will see the machine in the man. Without one another, they are nothing. Every superhero needs a supercar. This is not science fiction. This is Formula One. One.